Why do you want the waste to be visible? Well, if you see it, tackle it, do something about it. When are you going to finish fighting waste? Probably never. That's what lean is about. Things must move, must flow. I tried to get rid of my mother-in-law, but unfortunately I never succeeded.
Can be wasteful, right?
I reserve that right. Let's go for the perfection. No, it's a journey.
Vitor has trained more than 8,000 people in the last, how many years?
20.
20 years,
21.
8,000 people. Culture eats process for breakfast, right?
Culture is, we start living something. It's like going to the doctor. You rush to be there on time, and then you have to sit. And if it is a dentist, it's even worse, because you hear all that crazy noise that says, ooh. Don't interfere. Observe with an open mind. You don't like what you are going to see. Well done, do something about it. Every time you firefight, you are addressing symptoms. You are not addressing the real problem. 5S is not housekeeping, uses housekeeping. Because let's be very clear, the objective of 5S is productivity. If we don't respect what we do at work, we don't respect ourselves.
So good evening, everyone. So this is the first time we're trying this, so it's an experiment. So I normally have a podcast every month where I have a person that is normally either one-on-one or online, and we would have a conversation, and typically I would learn something from that person. But we thought, why not try a live podcast, and maybe it'll be a little bit more interactive, a little bit more maybe personal, because otherwise if it's two people, it's a little bit cold, right? And I'm hoping, Vitor, you get some tough questions from the audience, because often I don't have enough knowledge to ask tough questions. So firstly, welcome to everybody here. Thank you for taking time out. Vitor, it's an absolute honor to have you with us. Rather than me rambling on with an introduction of who you are, I'm going to probe you with a couple of questions just to give some context to everybody on who you are. So Vitor Ferreira. What I do know is you spent 20 plus years in the tire manufacturing industry.
Absolutely right.
You then moved to the area of training, and you've been involved in a couple of organizations since then. Tell us a little bit about what it was like as a designer of tires, all the way through the different manufacturing stages to the point where you started selling tires. Maybe just talk us through your journey.
It was a very interesting journey. I had the opportunity first to design, and because I was always criticizing the production people, they put me in charge of production.
Oh, okay.
So so I was in production. Then they put me as technical manager, quality manager, final inspection manager, and then I start to get worried because that was the last position available in the company. And eventually I went to sales, which it was a very gratifying experience, allowed me to see the whole circuit, the life of a product, as we may say, allowed me to gain lots of experience in several countries, because I worked in Brazil, France, Belgium, Spain, and eventually it was the biggest lie of my life. They invited me to come to South Africa. That was in 1992. And Bridgestone, they promised me, Vitor, just 2 years and you come back from Brazil. My wife is Brazilian, my kids are Brazilian born. And after 2 years, I stayed another 2 years, they extended the contract, and eventually, I don't know what happened, I'm still around. Okay. That's quite a lot of time. And nowadays, when we travel abroad, and I talk to my wife, let's go home, that means coming back to South Africa. So I really do love South Africa about that. I saw many things during my professional life. A lot of experience with the French and the Japanese in their way, their approach. The Japanese still very strong in lean, already at that time. Firestone before Bridgestone it was the school, the American school. After Bridgestone acquired Firestone, it became another school. And it was there that we saw what change is about. What are the delicacies, what are the problems that we face, what are the victories that we face, and the stage that we face. And after 20-something years of tires, I kind of got fed up. It still was black most of the time, 2 holes, one in front of the other, and yeah. But it was a great journey.
You mentioned working for a French company, Michelin, right?
Yeah,
and then
French, yeah, Michelin.
And
Absolutely.
then a Japanese company, Bridgestone, Firestone, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice any cultural differences?
In spite of being 2 different nationalities, the similarities were very strong. And the biggest similarity was the culture of the company. A culture fanatically geared towards continual improvement, fanatically geared towards fighting waste, identifying waste, and it was quite an experience. In spite of being 2 diametrically opposed countries, they were so similar in their approach to the concepts already. Of course, Michelin, we never talked about lean. You use principles without knowing that was lean, really. The word lean starts coming when I go into Bridgestone, and I start to face the Japanese concepts. One of the concepts that kind of struck me was they were fanatic about housekeeping, 5S. And 5S is not housekeeping, uses housekeeping. Because let's be very clear, the objective of 5S is productivity. But the housekeeping was a very strong point with Bridgestone. And once talking with the vice director of Bridgestone, asking him, why are you so fanatical about this housekeeping, about this organization? And he told me, Victor, we have to respect the place where we work because we eat from our work. If we don't respect what we do at work, we don't respect ourselves. That at the beginning was like you say in South Africa, vahabiki. No, I had to swallow that pill. And that was expressed in all the details. The first very basic thing was how well is organized 5S. Later I found out the objective there also that they were so fanatic about 5S is that they want the waste to be visible. They don't want to hide the waste. So why do you want the waste to be visible? Well, if you see it, tackle it, do something about it. Okay? So that comes with continuation, with continual improvement.
Simple concept of putting the things in their place. Absolutely. When it's not in the place, you see the waste.
Absolutely.
That's, I think
when it came to the sort phase, get rid of what you don't need. I tried to get rid of my mother-in-law, but unfortunately I never succeeded on that one.
Okay. That's a tough one.
Huh? It was tough. Yeah.
Yeah. Can be wasteful, right?
I reserve that right. Can I plead the Fifth Amendment?
I was trying to bait you here. Why did you think that Michelin was culturally lean, but not consciously lean, if that's the right phrase?
Today, and I may be wrong in my interpretation, but today I attribute that to the fact that we start to see the word lean as we use it today in 1990. And there was a book, The Machine That Changed the World, but that was introduced for the first time, at least that we know about. Okay, I was in Michelin prior to that period. So, but it was, call it whatever we want, it was part of our culture. It is a culture thing. Just as a comment aside, Toyota was one of the few OEMs that allowed competition to visit their factories. And once they inquired one of the senior managers of Toyota, why do you allow competition to visit your factory? Aren't you afraid they're going to steal your secrets? And the guy said, look, whatever we do, it's very much known to everybody. We don't have anything special. Our only competitive edge is our culture. And the culture takes about 30 years, according to him, to build up. That was the advance. So culture is very important.
Yeah. Culture eats process for breakfast, right?
Culture is, we start living something that we believe in. And I think it's very important. If you don't believe in something, you're going to question things, you're going to put resistance. And one of the principles of change management is people must understand the reason of change. People must be committed to that. They must participate in that. And you see this also here in South Africa. I've seen companies with fantastic FAVAs, fantastic organization, strong culture, and by the side organizations where it looks like a little bit of Vietnam after bombing, if I can use the expression, okay? Which is completely messy. And you see that is the difference in the culture.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think just as our own organization at Gendermark, we've had phases in different cultures, and you can see ultimately the output out the door is directly correlated to the culture. Yeah. But the culture evolves as new people come, and you don't realize the impact certain individuals can have on the culture of an organization until you start to see the impact positively and negatively out the door.
Can
right?
go both ways.
Yeah. When we sat in your office in preparation for this, I have a picture on my phone where there's a massive bookshelf with books packed to the brim. And I counted at least 7 or 8 Toyota books.
Yeah.
And I saw the Samsung way, and I saw, I don't know, so many books around, let's say, doing things better, if I could summarize that. And I think you mentioned that you read 2 books a week.
On average, yes.
Can you imagine reading 2 books a week? It's crazy. And he said that he's got another shelf full of books as well.
Two more.
Two more.
Inside. House, yeah.
So if I could ask you an unfair question, if you now think back to all of the books that you've read, from a manufacturing perspective, obviously our audience here is all involved in factories. What would the 2 or 3 things that stand out for you to say over the years, out of these hundreds, maybe 1,000 books, hundreds of books at least, that you've read and understood and studied, what are the 2 or 3 things that you think we should all be cognizant of?
One book that impacted me, the Toyota Way, and there are several other books linked to that, to the cultural side of things. Learning to See, definitely.
Learning to See.
Learning to See at the Institute of LEAN puts the importance of we go and see the problems. We don't wait for the problems in our offices. That's distorted. I had an experience, just making a break there. I had an experience in the States. I was giving training on problem solving for BMW, and I asked the industrial engineer, the group, and there was an industrial engineer in particular. I asked them, okay, I want a flow chart of the process where these problems are happening. And this gentleman drew 2 flow charts, different ones. And I found very strange. I said, why did this guy do 2 flow charts? And ask him, why 2 flow charts? Oh, very easy, sir. This is the way it should be done. And this is the second way this is the way it is being done. And they were different. I say, okay, do me a favor, get first way, the way that it should be done, and throw it away. I don't care. This is the way it is done. Yes. And we went to the shop floor, and guess what we found? A 3rd flow chart. So this shows that if there is a problem, first of all, we have to go there. We have to question things. We have to see what really adds value, what does not add value, what is the waste. Because we have lots of excuses for everything. But one thing is, there are things that we need to do and things that we don't need to do that just waste, whatever. But waste is throwing away precious resources that we need. It's throwing away performance. We talk about meeting customer needs and expectations. It's a political slogan, almost. But we do things that customer doesn't really care about. We go overboard sometimes in things, and other things that we just, and learning to see created this perception. We go there and we see, we start question. We don't trust just on the information of. We go there and see, and if we get here, we have different expertises in this room. I promise you, you're going to see the same process, and you will see different things. Different things will attract our attention because they are more relevant to our expertise. So learning to see was very important. The best book that I've read for training Toyota Talent.
Toyota Talent.
Talent. Very good book. I wish more organizations more HRs would read that book.
What are the key things that stood out for you in that book?
The way that training is conducted, the way that we leave very clear that the trainer is responsible for the trainee. Okay, and in Michelin we had a similar thing. Okay, we had an exercise that was quite overwhelming. So a trainer organized with us and said, "Okay, I'll be in that place at that time." The whole group comes. We got to the room, the trainer doesn't show up, but he was downstairs, swearing at us. "What are you doing?" So when you get to his point, he's already near the warehouse. We get to the warehouse, there are a bunch of benches, and the guy gives us a drawing and says, "You cut the piece of wood like this." Nobody had a clue about how to do that. And of course, what came out of that piece of wood was completely chaotic. And afterwards, we slow down, and then comes the trainer, organizes, explains, and then something starts coming out. Okay? How many times we leave the trainee alone and let's pray for God that he knows what he's doing. All right. Okay. And there is a lot more in the book, but is that attention to the detail, the attention to the way that we bring the person to a level where the person is competent. Because sometimes we forget one thing. Competency, and that goes to the management systems, is a mixture of education, training, skills, knowledge, experience. Why do we have work instructions? To try to give some orientation. In reality, it's to reduce variation. And sometimes we pretend that everybody follows the work instructions. Yeah, okay. As an auditor, I've seen these love stories. They are amazing. Puts me into tears. Okay. They follow the work instructions. Yeah, here everybody follows the work instructions. Yeah, huge. Okay. All right. So that is the side that we're going to need to invest a lot in terms of bringing the competency of the people. If you allow me, I'm going to jump into another subject already. We are in the age of artificial intelligence. We have just had this discussion. We are in the age where change is no longer gradual. It's going to be radical. It's going to be exponential. And there is no use that we complain about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been with us for a long time. But now it's getting to a point where it's really impact us. So So means what? That many jobs will be completely change the profile, and we have to prepare our people for that. We are responsible for that, okay? Many jobs that exist today will not exist tomorrow, and we have full of examples. Yesterday on the news, on a Portuguese channel, Walmart is cutting 500,000 jobs till about 2033. And then Walmart comes and says, hey, you guys, you didn't read the whole thing, because it's not cutting jobs, it's changing jobs, which is a different approach. So it's no longer a question, am I going to use it or not? That question has been answered long time ago. Is you have two, of course, different ways you need to do different things. So change is here. It has always been here. We had a chat, I call it the ninth waste.
The ninth waste.
The ninth waste. Well, Toyota found 7. Then somebody came with the 8th, is to get people not to his full potential. And then I didn't ask permission, I create number 9. Is the resistance to change is there. Either you change or you are dead. Dinosaurs didn't change. There are not anymore. Okay, there are. So we have an option. Very clear. Quoting Ford, if Henry Ford had asked his customers what they want, they would ask for a better horse or better horses, and then he come with the car. Okay, there we go. And that's how things are going to change. Okay, so the wastes of today are the sources of growth, the sources of profitability. We have to be, I'm a firm believer, we have to be flexible, we have to be agile, and we have to be creative, because that's what is here already. And it's going to increase the speed.
So those imperatives that you describe have always been imperatives. But if there's a word even more important than imperative, it's you need them even more now.
Yeah.
So you obviously described a lot of your experience from a manufacturing perspective. Then you changed careers, if you will, into a training and auditing job.
Yeah.
And, you worked for a couple of different organizations, and eventually you started your own organization. I just wanted to touch on the auditing side, because you mentioned one or two examples, or once or twice you've had to cry at some of the reasonings. I'd like you to, maybe with some humor if you want, share some examples of where you've been in an audit, no names mentioned.
Of course.
And you've been like, no, this can't be. And you've looked at it and like you said, there's no ways you're using the work instruction. Just some of the highlights or lowlights, if you want, of some of the things that you've experienced as an auditor in factories.
One that you see very often is people putting action plans to solve things, to address objectives. And then as an auditor, I have to ask, did you achieve your objective? And my answer is, of course. Yes, of course. Okay, good. How do you know? And then starts the problem. They stare at you. Like they say, what does this idiot means with that question? Okay, because what? We don't really measure things. Okay, I'm not saying generalizing some organizations. So we put actions in place, but we don't really put an indicator, something that tells us specifically. And coming from an environmental of Lean Six Sigma, don't come with the story that it looks better or it sounds better. I just want a number. What is the indicator that we selected? Objectives is another story. I audited in particular company. It was quite funny because they had put a ruling that every year they should set their objective 2% better than the average of the previous year. And that sounded to me, okay, let's see the results. But they never reached the objective. So when you start making the calculation, as a matter of fact, their objectives were every year worse than on the previous year because they never reached the objective. So if they have a 2, they would get a 2.2. So now let's take 2% of 2.2. That gives me 2.18. But wait a minute, last year you were at 2, now you want 2.18. Why? That's okay. Love stories that everybody follows the work instructions. As a matter of fact, I had an event that happened to me in France, which was really, I was 23, I was being trained as the new technical manager for the factory in Brazil. And at 23, you can be an idiot. Let's put it very clear. So coming from Brazil, it was a new factory, greenfield, young people, we are all full of ourselves. And we were in the factory. And my colleagues told me, Victor, you go to that factory, go to that machine, you see that guy over there? Yeah. Tell him the next tire must be done using this new work instruction. I said, give it to me, that is easy. And very proudly, Victor left. As I was walking towards the machine, I realized one thing. I knew the guy. He had 35 years of machine, of building tires. I was 23 years old. He was bigger than me. And that factory was an old factory of Michelin. There was an agreement with the union that every employee could take 2 liters of alcohol to the factory. So they have fridges with drinks, basically wine and a liqueur that they use pastis, they mix with water. I never saw anybody drunk, but towards the end of the shift, they become a little bit reddish. And this guy was red already. So I had this feeling that something tragic was going to happen. When I arrived to the guy at the machine, I told him very respectfully, look, my colleagues in the office are asking me to tell you to change. Next time you must use this. And very, very nicely turns to me, I want you, your colleagues in the office to get beep, 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 beep. Very humiliated, I got to work instruction, I went back to the office. When I got to the office, everybody was laughing. At the end of the shift, he came to see me and he said, Vitor, my apologies, but they asked me to do this. It had been organized. And then he stopped, he said, but look, you should have seen your face. You looked funny. Okay, event aside, what did I do wrong? Everything. What gives me the right to go to a person that is a professional, knows that machine better than I do, has been making tires for longer than I've done, to tell him that he must change immediately without the minimum explanation? And people start doing things because, and in many circumstances, they start doing things because, thanks God, they found ways that if they followed the work instructions, they would make defects. How many times I ask, how did you write this work instruction? Is the engineer? I'm sorry. The engineer knows about the machine. The engineer knows about technical, but the engineer is not making it. He's not more experienced to do that. And you need that person. It's the commitment. So that story, the work instructions, is a classical things. And very often, almost every audit, somebody comes with a love story, different. And we just forget to look for evidence.
Yeah, I've also learned the hard way that I won't share the story now, we don't have enough time, but if you really want to find the solution, ask the operator, ask the technician. They live it, they use it every day, they know exactly where the problems are, how to fix it. You just have to listen.
Yeah, sorry, I know that we're short in time, but I had also an example in Brazil where we had a problem of chemical contamination on the tire. If you use the wrong product, instead of increasing the adhesion between the components, separates. I asked the engineers, and the engineer came with a very nice solution. There was a photocell, talks to the computer, I don't know, I lost halfway through, and then I asked him, this was on the 80s, huh? How much does it cost? Around $8,000 to $10,000. Well done. I had 18 machines. I said, don't have money for that. I approached one of the operators, explained the problem. I said, do you have any idea how to address this? Oh, it's easy. I said, oh, there we go. Get me a lead from the pot, 2 rods, 2 leads, 2 rods, and a welder and a specialist to link these to the server because there was a rotation. I said, well done. One wants $10,000, the other one wants 1 welder, 1 expert, 2 leads, and 2 pieces of steel. Okay, so we went to the kitchen and we borrowed two leads. We just forgot to return, but that is irrelevant to the experiment. And so very, very easily, so you have the 2 boxes with the chemicals, different chemicals. So it's when he's applying one product, one of the leads cover the box that should not be used, and this box is open. When he rotates, he presses a pedal, rotates a table, this one opens and this one closes. Only have access to the right chemical. It was adopted by the whole group. Okay. We never told them that we stole the leads, but we told them that it was a metallic cover. It's more sophisticated. Okay. And this came, we implemented 18 machines in a weekend.
Now, yeah, the solutions are often bottom up, not top down.
Yeah.
So
sometimes simplicity sometimes is complex, but it pays.
The simplest solutions are the hardest to come up with.
Yeah.
So that was so some good insights from an auditing perspective. You've obviously spent many years training people, and I asked you to kind of estimate, but I don't know if you guys know, but Vitor has trained more than 8,000 people in the last, how many years?
20
years, 8,000 people. So you've certainly had an impact on industry, wherever it is in the world. 8,000 people that are making important decisions in factories, you've definitely had an impact. So amazing, well done.
Thank you.
What I had asked Vitor to do was to pick a particular topic and to prepare some slides from a training perspective, and maybe he could share that with us, and obviously we're open to any questions or comments as you go through it.
Okay, one of the topics that it's a little bit of one of my passions is to deal with waste. Because for me, waste hides opportunities. And sometimes we try to look the other way around it because it doesn't give us a good feeling, but waste is there, which means there are opportunities for gains. And when are we going to finish fighting waste? Probably never. Because that's a principle of continual improvement. So we solve one and there comes another one, okay? I'm not talking about marriages, okay? I'm talking about waste. So, what the point is, very often we say lean is quality. Lean is more than quality. Lean means about the health of an organization. We talk about capacities. We talk about availability. We talk about agility of reaction, flexibility. We talk about, yes, profits. At the end of the day, let's talk about hard cash. What are the principles of lean? Basically, 5 principles. We look at, first of all, we have to identify value. Value seen from the perspective of the external customer. Okay? I'm not belittling the importance of dealing with internal customers, but our target at the end of the day is the external customer. Why? Sometimes we don't like them, but they are the ones that bring the cash into the company. That's as hard as that. Okay? Lean is a lot about flow. If you talk about flow, I have to identify what is the stream. What takes me, if you talk about manufacturing, okay, the customer puts an order, very well. Then I have to contact my suppliers. Then I receive the components or I receive the materials. They are processed, then we ship them to the customer. So there is a stream there. And during this stream, I have to identify where are the wastes that we are facing. Some wastes, sometimes we need to live with them. It is a necessity. In the trainings, sometimes people get offended. When I ask the quality person, do you add value? They say, yes, of course. So, what do you do? How many parts do you factor? No, I don't manufacture anything, so you don't add value. You got pretty offended with me, but what I was saying, it was the wrong question. I was asking the wrong question to any support service. Support service don't add value. They don't make anything, but they are important. We cannot lose track. What was bad, and I had that experience when I arrived in South Africa, the quality department had more people than production. That is a recipe to shoot ourselves in the foot real quick. There are more people supporting than people making something. It's a little bit of an exaggeration. The right word and most important word here is the flow. That's what lean is about. Things must move, must flow. And when there is a hindrance to that flow, it means that I have some form of waste, some form of problem, which I have to deal with that. Okay. I compare a little bit with 2010 South Africa World Cup. Gauteng, they widened the highways, but they forgot the exits. Well done, we were arriving quicker to the bottleneck. Okay? So I have to identify these bottlenecks. They are sources of waste. I'm going to make what? Oh, well, I'm going to make what the customer needs, at quantity he needs, and what he needs at the time he needs. Okay? Because otherwise, what I'm going to do, generate parts, components, materials that I put in the warehouse. And then there is a shock there. That's why we have lean accounting. Because traditional accounting, what is in the warehouse is an asset. But in terms of lean is a waste. I visited a warehouse, tire warehouse in Gauteng. Beautiful, full of tires. Ask the person in charge, how many tires do you have here? He said, about 250,000. Oh, impressive. How many are starters, movers? About 30, 25, 30,000. So well done. We have, what, 200,000 tires of garbage that is there in the inventory, that sooner or later you're going to have to take a decision because it takes space, takes insurance, needs people. That's an expense. Okay. So that's why. Now, here you have to be very careful about, because there is this just in time, that we even use the joke is just in case, but just in time, you have to be very careful because depending on your position on supply chain, if you need something imported, you may be open to problems. And we had problems. Thailand, they had floods. During 2 weeks, they stopped quite a few OEMs because they're not supplying parts. Portugal, the same thing, about 2 years ago, but that was in, I think, in Lithuania. And they almost stopped the factory of Volkswagen in Portugal for 3 months. They then got another supplier that could supply, so they, even like that, they were stopped for 3 weeks. So that is something that we have to be very careful. And what do we strive for? For sure, perfection. Have we ever reached that? No. But we continue to strive for. That is the principle of continual improvement. So I have value stream, you have the flow, you have the pull, and you have the striving for perfection. And these are the 5 basic principles. What are the 2 fundamentals of Lean? Lean has got 5 principles. There are 2 fundamental bases: respect for people and continual improvement. These are the 2 that they must exist. Because we talk about involving your people. Now, it doesn't make sense if I involve the people, improve my performance, and then afterwards I fire them because I don't need them. That will be, and when Lean, let's go back to Toyota principles, when Lean was created, it was never the intention of optimizing that to get rid of people. It was of expanding the business, so there would be work for more people. So the big challenge is, how do I transform these waste into profitability? The opportunities are there. Are we willing to take them? Are we willing to face them? Takes time and takes an effort. Okay. Traditionally, Lean, starting from the Toyota times, they defined 7 wastes. So we'll have the inventory, waiting, defects, overproduction, motion, transportation, overprocessing. They don't operate in isolation, they are interlinked. For instance, some experts consider overproduction as being the father of other forms. Production, I was there. We love these big runs. We don't have to change the machine. Oh, so nice. Make it, go for it, boy, make it. But unfortunately, we make 5,000, the customer only wants 500. What do we do with the others? I don't mention names, of course, but there was an organization here in PE that they use principles of overproduction. A customer, during 6 years, they always ask for the same amount of components of the same type. It was religious. So you would have every 2nd month, there was an order of that component. Okay, and then poof. And so some smart persons in the production said, okay, let's do the following. Let's make a run, and we covered the whole year. And so they did. First order, they were okay. 2nd order, they were okay. 3rd order comes with a change. And they approached the customer and said, hey, we have so many in the warehouse, what we do with that? And the customer said, it's your problem, it's not mine. Can you give a deviation? And the customer said no, because that change has to go with changes from other suppliers. The scrap was there in the warehouse. It was found once because there was 2 auditors that came from Europe, or corporate audit. When we went to the warehouse, saw this beautiful display of frozen parts, and I asked, what is this about? Why are these 2 years ago? I make the wrong parts. Okay, the rest, it is another story that happened, okay? So, waste doesn't add value to the customer. I don't care. I'm paying for the product. If you put 10 people, to be quite honest with you, if you say this was inspected, I don't care. I'm going to do my inspection as a customer to see whether I like it or not. Consumes time, blocks the flow, increases costs, operational problems. When you have these intermediate stocks in the production lines, why do we have this working process? We have this working process because sometimes we don't trust our machines. Sometimes we don't know. And how many times we found that in the midst of this working process, there are defects. Okay. When I was manager of final inspection, one of my Japanese friends said, Victor, many tires for repair, you take charge. I had 12,000 tires for repair. I almost killed myself. I thought about killing the Japanese, but I don't think that would. And amongst these 12,000 tires, we found 800 scraps. Production was making scrap. Well, 12,000 more, 1 plus, what is the difference? Affects the culture and motivation. Yeah. It's so nice to see a clean flow, a clean floor. Beautiful thing, instead of seeing everything clogged, full of components. And of course, let's go to the practical side. Attacks your profitability, and once it attacks your profitability, it will impact on your potential for growth. Okay. I like this. I didn't create this. I read this from a book, but I like the word. Waste is silence, but the impact is loud. It's loud because it comes with the numbers. Okay, so the 7 traditional forms of waste, somebody created an acronym, Tim Woods: transportation, inventory, motion, awaiting, overproduction, overprocessing, and defects. Transportation is, we move things from one side to the other. It could be parts, could be components, but the transport doesn't add. There is no transformation in this product that is interesting to the customer. So sometimes we have to do it, yes, but sometimes we do it too much. Okay. So sometimes what you see, the layout. Okay. Michelin Brazil, our initial project in Brazil on the 80s was 8 factories for tires and 1 factory to make steel cables that go into the tires. Economical problems in the country. Michelin puts the project on hold, so only 1 factory near Rio de Janeiro, but the factory for steel cables was about 200, 300 Ks, had already been built, forecasting the demand for 8 factories. So we had the buildings, but not the machines. There was so much space inside. We even, and there is no joke, we played soccer inside the factory. No, we played indoor soccer, it was fine. We had one director that, because the piece of land was very big, he decided to grow lemons. The worst thing is that Michelin cable plant became the biggest lemon grower in the region. We are making more money from lemons than from the steel cable. Eventually, they stopped with that. So our transportation was pathetic. Because what? The layout was completely, we had more space than what we needed. Okay. And it is one thing that I saw often with Japanese is, if they do a 5S, if they optimize, if there is, for instance, that now I have too many machines, they shut down the machines. They don't let you operate because they say, you have enough machines to do it. I must put one more. This machine is mothballed, okay? They even block parts of the building if it is necessary, just to keep you performing, okay? Inventories, obvious reasons. We have too many things stored all over the show. The customer will not pay for you. No, not pay you for what you have in the inventory, will pay you for what they buy, okay? And there are costs. I have to manage these stocks. I have to have insurance on these stocks, okay? Just in time or pull systems, we have to be very careful how we apply this. Most of these tools, you cannot apply them blindly. Let's go for the perfection. No, it's a journey. You go step by step, and gradually you create this momentum. Kanban, very used. And SMED, we'll talk later about SMEDs. Also very interesting, because the more flexible I am, the better way I can manage my inventories. Motion, this poor guy. He walks left and right, center, he moves left arms, okay? Our factories are not supposed to be gyms, okay? We have to look at ergonomics. More and more standards are concerning themselves about the conditions of the workstation. The last standards are coming, even the psychological stress of people at the workstation. And 45003 is very strongly on the psychological side of things. 5S, the organization is very important. Do I have the tools that I need around me? Am I surrounded by things that I don't need? How much space can I release from that? One factory, they had a test machine in the lab. Cost a fortune, quite big. And asked them, this, what are you using for? No, we're not using. But was it for? No, that was for a project, but never took off. So, now it was so expensive, we don't dare throw it away. So you have an elephant there that is just taking place and is not adding any value. So I'm not asking them to throw it away, try to sell something, see sometimes with another factory that has interest in that. Also the layout is important, placing the tools and materials at the points of use. Do you know the difference between a lady's handbag and the toolbox of maintenance people? Both of them are full of stuff. The ladies always found what they need. The maintenance people never found. Oh, I forgot this tool, and there he goes, looking for the tool. And there you stay sitting and waiting for more things. Waiting waste, we move. It is of the 7 tools, of forms of waste. There is one that talks about uneven flow, and that talks about taking the burden that you take. So sometimes we rush, and then we have to stop. We wait on tools, we wait on specification, we wait on components. It's like going to the doctor. You rush to be there on time, and then you have to sit and wait for the doctor because it's there. And if it is a dentist, it's even worse, because you hear all that crazy noise that says, do I really want to go there or not? Okay. Once again, on the waiting, SMED is very important, because a good part of the waiting is caused because I have changeovers of machineries, of equipment, of products. Of production, we talked already about it. You produce more than what is needed at the wrong moment, in the wrong quantities. And yes, it's full of things. And once again, be careful about accounting and about lean. There is a discipline, is lean accounting. And it is very clear, lean accounting, inventory is negative. But the accountants, usually they consider these as assets. Of what? I don't know. Okay. Other processing, okay, this implies what? Understand what the customer is looking for. Understand specifications. And give what they are looking for, and stop doing things that don't add any value, neither to you, because it's a waste, neither to the customer. Okay? So sometimes, oh, the product is beautiful, it's polished inside, but the customer will not have a look on the inside. Oh, we polished the bonnet underneath, and it's fantastic, it's with an accuracy of 100ths of a millimeter. Who is the customer that's going to be looking under the bonnet to measure what is the tolerance? Okay, right. Poka-Yoke, very important. Error proofing. Okay. We are using more and more Poka-Yoke, and we're still not using enough. Okay. The prevention of errors, or otherwise the detection. When you do something wrong, make sure that it is detected. Okay. And one thing I was in the hospital for 10 days, and to have a person like me in the hospital for 10 days is a risk, because I start analyzing the processes, okay? And then when I arrived there, they put a bracelet, it was pink or orange and something. Oh, well, at least I'm a color coding. I was just saying, if they give me bar coding, then I have a problem. But as a matter of fact, they are quite sharp in lean systems. As a matter of fact, they are light. All these bracelets mean something to them. Okay. Even when they were giving me the medication, well, that's impressive. I was impressed with the systems they were using. Okay. I just got concerned if they would put me on the correct surgery room. Now, there is a story, unfortunately it was true. It was happening in Brazil. A diabetic, like I am, the guy went to amputate the foot. And when you woke up from the surgery, you looked and the foot was still there. But he went to the surgery and he called the physician and asked, well, what's going on? My foot is still here. And then when they went, they had done a vasectomy to the guy. Well, at least they did something free of charge, because afterwards they went him back to cut the foot. Defects, okay, that goes by itself. We have scrap, we have rework, we have repairs. Rework and repairs are defects, are additional costs. And the industry looks very close to that, okay? How many defects do you have? How many repairs do you do? How many reworks? Put that on the pencil. On the pencil, no, on the computer, and see how much it costs. Okay, so these are the 7 that Toyota starts with. And how can we address some of them? So we have to look 2 points that I decided to select: flexibility and quick response. Because the markets ask us to do, if they want to ask us so many products, and there is a variety of products, implies that there is flexibility. I want overproduction, so I need to change sometimes my equipment. Okay, how do we achieve that? First of all, the setup and change over time. It happened here. Bridgestone, Japanese, arrived to the factory, and setups and change over time was a little bit of a disaster. Building machines, we have a drum where you put the components, but this drum goes to an X that goes onto the part of the machine. There was 8 bolts, and there starts the carnival. Some of the bolts are metric, some of the bolts are imperial. First, and then the threads are stripped. And then you have to align the drum. We put 8 molds. And so every time there was a size change, one shift, 2 hours, more or less that. The Japanese arrive, not because they are more intelligent, they are not more intelligent. They realize, oh, asshole, okay. Take the bolts out, the drums, there is a lock and shaft, put the drum in position, lock in position, it's that. All the tooling auxiliary that goes on top of the drum is assembled outside, external setup time. So the machine is ready to run. You go to vulcanization. Every time we change a mold, it's another carnival. 1.5 shifts to 2 shifts, and drama, quite a big drama. Yeah? Japanese saw that, okay, and they did a SMED investigation. After, 2 years, 1.5 years, more or less, we go from 1.5 shifts to 2 hours. And their reaction is, no, not good, not good. No, not good. In Japan, 1 hour. Brazil, Michelin plant, we operate 24/7. We only stop at New Year, Christmas, and Carnival. Carnival is 4 days because you don't get anybody to work. And those that come to work, you have to put them in a room because they are under the influence. They are shut down. Maintenance had 1 hour to do the maintenance in a machine. So everything was done externally. At 1 hour, production leaves the machine. Maintenance team jumps in. 1 hour later, production people is there waiting for the machine, ready to go. By that time, the first tire must have been made. So machine is, the first off is done, has to go. I know it's maintenance, but the principle was basically the same. What can be done externally is done externally. And once we differentiate the activities between the external and the internal, we still must streamline them. It's not just separate, we must streamline the whole thing. Align production with demand. The flows is basically the line balancing and simplification of the workplace, 5S, and visual management. When we get to the SMED, because that is the area, we need small batch production, quick response, higher flexibility. What can SMED give us? Fast changeovers, internal versus external setup, standardization, tool and material organization, participation of the operator. I've seen companies here, not only here, South Africa, but in some other parts of the world, that production people, we go into a change, production people walk out. And it's a responsibility of the maintenance people, but production people are not there. It's our machine. We need to put this in mind. And of course, the continuous improvement. So how do we implement this? We start with observing. Don't interfere. Observe with an open mind. You don't like what you are going to see. Well done, do something about it. But you don't interfere, no prejudgment. You just capture information. After that, analyze information, separate what is at that moment the internal from the external, separate them, and then streamline them. Create a process, define a process, and train the people on that. Make them aware of that. Don't take it just for granted. And if you are happy, well done, celebrate, but let's see how we can improve that. Okay. Always there, okay? Some benefits we could, these are just examples, only literature, 50 to 90% setup time reduction. I gave 2 examples. Smaller batch sizes, that's what we want to achieve. Lower costs, faster customer response, and hence increased flexibility. So, how do we go in all this story, not only SMED? First, I want to see the waste. Make a summary, prioritize. There are some points that they are very quickly. Attack them. Quick wins. The Americans like to call it lower hanging fruit. Maybe that's why they chose Trump as president, okay? Progress then towards more strategic. Use specific tools. Don't forget, it's not a hammer that fits all. I need to understand what type of waste so that I select that waste, okay? Quantify and convert savings into financial results. When you address something, how much have you gained with that? Start quantifying things. Try to leave that story of looks better, looks worse. Quantify as much as possible. Kaizen, continual improvement, and lean becomes part of your activities. Now, I had to bring this because AI is with us. It will affect all the activities. And it will affect Lean, like it will affect Six Sigma, like it will affect others. Okay. First of all, visibility. But I want to detect my waste earlier. AI has a very big capacity of dealing with lots of information very quickly, much quicker than we can. Okay. I audited an organization in Cape Town where they had beautiful spreadsheets of data, beautiful. Ask them, okay, out of this, how do you use this information? Oh no, I use this one and this one. They use 2 out of an enormity, so all the rest of the information was not used. So why bother if I'm not going to use that? No information, over information is as dangerous as no information. Okay. Speed, faster response, automation, precision, predictive insights, less overproduction, fewer defects, the flexibility, alignment with demand, and the learning. It's part of AI. AI is continuously learning from us. Okay. It depends on our information. And based on that, it's going to go and can help us more. Don't forget about machine learning. AI is quite good about that. So, what is the call to action about this in this journey? Identify your wastes, apply the right tools, use SMED looking for flexibility and agility, grow agility, flexibility, capacity, of course, and profit. At the end of the day, the word profit is very important. Yeah. Well, yes, I like that one. You can win if you want. That depends on you. All right, that's basically it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vitor.
Now I'm going to sit, if you don't mind.
Firstly, let me just check. Any questions or comments?
Well, essentially, first of all, you have to make a choice. if you want to spend the rest of your life firefighting, or if you want to start solving problems, really, problems. My advice is identify what are your major problems and start tackling them. So use criteria could be at the quantity of problems, by the number of units, could be an impact in the financial impact, could be also the criteria could use impact on your market or so. But you need at a moment to stop firefighting, because every time you firefight, you are addressing symptoms. You are not addressing the real problem. It's like you have a headache, you go to the drugstore, you buy Panadol. And it relieves a little bit and you feel, oh, the problem is gone. No, the problem is not gone. The problem is still there and will come back. And if you take Panadol long enough, you'll start to enjoy this stuff.
I'm going to go buy some Panada after this.
Please do.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, please do.
So, how or what has your experience been with operators? Because obviously, not all of them see the big picture. Obviously, there's a benefit to the company saving money, but maybe it's not always understood from a shop floor point of view, and so you get that extra bit of resistance. Like, why should I do this? Like, why can't I just do what I've been doing for 55 years?
Okay, organizations, thanks for the question, it's very good. Most of the organizations are ISO 9001 or IATF 6949, and in both standards, it's required that in terms of awareness, people are informed about the importance of their contribution to the achievement of the objectives and the potential impact should they not follow the right instructions, okay? And very often this information doesn't get to them, and sometimes because we don't know, okay? Now, in principles of change, if you want to change, a first question they will ask you is, what's in it for me? And if you cannot answer that question, you start struggling with your credibility. Okay. Going back to your first question, being busy does not mean being effective. Never lose that from sight.
Anyone else? So I've got one kind of broad question. How do we prevent implementing systems, whether it be Lean, Six Sigma, because I think many organizations adopt it superficially and it becomes a tick box exercise. How do we educate bottom to top, top to bottom, so that it's not a tick box exercise? Because to be honest with you, most of our customers, and in many respects our own business, it becomes a tick box exercise. We do it because Vitor, the auditor, is coming next week, so we quickly get our ducks in a row, and then you ask us a hard question and we're like, no. But that's pointless then, right? Mm-hmm. So what is the gap? Why does it become such a tick box exercise in so many organizations? Because it's not just one organization, it's many organizations. And I'm sure if we're all honest, many organizations sitting here today are going to say, okay, yes, some of it is tick box exercise. So are we really truly addressing why I'd say 90% of organizations, it ends up being a tick box exercise? Yeah. Is there not something fundamentally wrong with the system?
Yes, it is, because we are adopting certain standards for the wrong reasons, okay? So one of the things that comes in any standard, and sometimes auditors, we are at fault for that, is that I'm not interested in your conformance. The main tick is effectiveness. So as an auditor, you may do the right things, but are you achieving the objective? And if you're not achieving the objective, it's a non-conformance. But many auditors don't follow this. And as a matter of fact, I attended last week a very interesting seminar from an organization about the future of auditing, and I got very enthusiastic about that, is the side of effectiveness, the side of achieving the objectives is going to become more and more important. In 2000, when they start talking about effectiveness, many auditors were the first ones to say, we are not ready to evaluate effectiveness. They did not know. But of course, an audit is always going to show. From the organization, now, let's see the other side of the coin. From the organization is, when you implement a system, what are you looking for? Are you looking for a piece of paper and a flag? Although the flags are terrible, but okay. Are you looking for a piece of paper, or are you looking for something that adds value to your business? Okay. Oh, the standards are very clear. They talk about set objectives and the actions to achieve them. It's there. Clause 6.2, it's there. Clause 6.1, and I'm not saying that to impress you, but say, determine the risks and opportunities and define the actions to achieve them. Now, if I go back to the standards, they also say, when you define the actions, define what you're going to do, who is responsible, resources necessary, how, by when it will be finished, and how you are going to determine the effectiveness.
So we sometimes are guilty of that is being the objective. Machine arrives in Mexico, doesn't work. And everyone goes back, why doesn't it work? What's going on? You go back and you see all the tick, it's all fine. So everyone met the objective, which was the piece of paper, but not actually the objective.
The effectiveness.
The effectiveness.
So you followed the procedure,
Yeah,
but you did not determine the effectiveness of this procedure.
absolutely. That resonates with me, unfortunately, because we're like I said, not often, but from time to time, you wonder how does it happen? Like it doesn't make sense, because I think we lose the objective. Mm-hmm. The objective of the exercise is to make a machine arrive on site, working, switch it on, it must produce parts. But
and also, we have to be careful with the certification bodies. I had not the pleasure, but I was coaching a quality manager in Gauteng, and it was bought by a German company. They were bought here, and they had this beautiful certificate. And I asked to see the audit report of the certification audit. They didn't have. And they looked at me and said, what do you mean by audit? Weren't you audit? No, we never saw any. And that certificate was issued by an European company that the only thing they were doing was selling certificates. I'm not saying IATF is quite demanding. They have a very strong control. But be careful when you use certification bodies that they're there. Give pay, stamp, here you have.
So Vitor, thank you very much. Maybe one last closing comment before we end. Any?
No, first of all, thanks for the opportunity. It was very nice. I don't apologize if I talk too much. It was on purpose. I've had, in these last 40 years, I've had the pleasure of going through a journey. And I've seen good things and bad things. And I do believe that at this moment we are facing a very important, we are turning a page where the speed of change will radically increase. Okay. And we need to be able to face them, to that speed. Even if you say, yeah, I'm just a domestic company, I don't go overseas, don't worry, the guys from overseas will come here. They will hunt you, because that's the way business is going. But thank you for the opportunity, Carla, for all the arrangements, on the, well, I'm going to see if my picture was nice or not afterwards, okay. And thanks to the audience. It was a pleasure for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Vitor. Thank you. There's still a little bit of food left, guys, and drink, so before you leave, take the food with you. Thank Thanks a lot.
Otherwise, it will be a waste.
Overproduction.
Overproduction. Okay.